It's a big-time episode of the Coach's Cut. Kansas City Chiefs head coach Andy Reid joins the show. Plus, Coach Tice is sharing his thoughts on the Titans firing Brian Callahan. All that and so much more starts right now. Welcome to the Coach's Cut with Mike Tice. I'm your host, Mike Davis. Thanks so much for joining us. Now it's time to meet the star of the show. He played tight end in the NFL for 14 seasons and coached in the league for 21 years, 4 of those being the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, the one, the only Mike Tice. How you doing, Coach?
Hi, Mike. Good to see you, brother.
I'm excited to have you here. We got a big show, Andy Reid coming on a little bit later, so we got to check out that conversation a little bit. But let's start with this. After losing last week to the Raiders, sitting at 1-5 with an overall record of 4-19, including last season, the Tennessee Titans made the move to fire head coach Brian Callahan. Coach, do you think he deserved to be fired?
Well, his record was not outstanding, Mike. There has to be internal reasons why he got fired so early in the season. I never like to see a fellow coach get fired, but there's probably more there than what's in the press.
Yeah, and tell us, I mean, it must be so incredibly tough to go through this. What is it like? Teach our audience.
Well, it's not that fun. I was an interim coach when Denny Green negotiated a settlement with the ownership to leave the last game of the season. So it was announced at a walkthrough that I was now the new head coach. It's tough because some of the players on the team wanted their coach to be the interim head coach. And the first couple of days were a little tense, Mike.
It sounds like it has to be such a whirlwind of emotions. And, of course, now the Titans, they named Mike McCoy, who is a senior offensive assistant with the Titans. He was named the interim head coach. He, of course, has head coaching experience with the Chargers. But you were just saying, Coach, you were an interim head coach. What goes through your mind? What does that whirlwind of emotions really feel like? And how do you maybe – what would some advice you would give to a guy like McCoy once he steps into that role?
Yeah, and that's a great question, Mike. I would not go in and recreate the wheel.
Yeah.
I would go in and make a couple changes that a lot of guys were not happy with. A lot of guys meaning the coaches or the players.
And I'm sure at 1-5, there's a lot of things people aren't happy with.
You can't pick them all and fix them all when you're 1-5 and you only you haven't won many games in 2 years. But there are some things that you can pick out and work on those things and let the team know we're going to be better at this and we have to do this better.
Right.
I think that will help.
Last thing on this before we get to our next thing, is it kind of like you're playing with house money once you become an interim head coach because you're stepping into a situation where you can really only go up, or is it not like that at all?
Well, I think it is. I mean, it's just natural that this is your opportunity. Let me make the best of it. It looks like when I looked at the numbers, for a long time the interim coaches didn't win. But it looked to me the last couple of years they're about 500. They've done okay.
Okay, and we see a lot of times these players, they like to rise to the occasion for the new guy in the new job.
If they like him.
All right, now, Coach, I'm always asking you questions off the air. One thing you told me recently that I thought was just fascinating is that you used to look at the NFL as a 3-week league. What does that mean?
Well, you don't want to look too far out, and you don't want to think you got all the answers, and we'll talk about that in a second. For example, if you look at a 3-week window and you have guys on an injury list, but you know they're getting them back, you can plan that way with how you have to shuffle things around. If you're 3-0 and you start getting full of yourself, you don't want to let the players, because it's happened to me before, look too far ahead down to the Thanksgiving game.
Right.
And just stay in that little tight window of 3 games. And we have some teams after 3 games that were undefeated.
Yeah, well, let's take a look at this. So give us some examples of the teams these past 3 weeks that are trending up and trending down.
Okay, so here's some teams, believe it or not, that started 3-0 that are trending down, and all for different reasons. The Chargers started 3-0, lost both tackles, a running back, so they're beat up. They've lost 2 of their next 3 games. The Bills, they're easy.
Yeah.
They lost 2 games because they're -2 in the turnover differential. Both losses, Mike.
As we always talk about.
The Eagles are trying to find their way on offense, as we know, and you're an Eagles fan, and you know that. And the 49ers have been decimated with injuries.
So we see that, and you can see the change, and it's fascinating to really look at it as a 3-week situation. I like that because we always hear, take it week by week, but I think that's too optimistic. People tend, as human beings, to just look a little further down the road.
You have
so
to,
this
Mike.
makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, so now give us the flip side of this, Coach.
Well, the flip side is there's some teams that after 3 games, the fans were going after the coaches and this and that. And I'll give you a couple. The Patriots were 1-2.
Yeah.
They won all of their next 3 games, and that's because of Drake May. He's got 20 reception or 20 passes of 20 yards or more, which is one of the top 5.
And he doesn't have so many weapons, but he's turning out to be a tremendous quarterback.
And he's only got 2 picks, too. Then you look at the Broncos. Now, the Broncos started out the same way, 1-2. They won their next 3. They are in the top 5 in 5. They're in the top 3 in 5 different defensive categories.
Wow.
That's amazing. And they're number 2 in scoring defense.
Okay.
You look at the Falcons, who I really like, and we've talked about the Falcons a couple of times this year. The Falcons are in the top 2 in offense and defense, yardage-wise. So they have some explosiveness, and they're doing a good job on defense. And lastly, I put up the Titans, the Texans, at 2 and 3. That's because they're number 1 in the league in defensive scoring. So they have, all of these teams have something there that they can continue to build on moving forward.
Right, and you got to have something you can hang your hat on, but it's good to see that. All right, guys, well, guess what? Next up, the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs joins the show. The 3-time Super Bowl champion, Andy Reid, sits down with Coach Tice. You don't want to miss this conversation.
Well, I'm the luckiest guy in Las Vegas today to have as my guest the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, Andy Reid. Andy, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule for me.
Absolutely. Listen, it's great to see you.
It's always good to see you. Couple things. I really don't want to talk too much about the game till the end. I want to talk about your team. Popularity comes with winning, and you guys have won a lot of games. And nowadays, with all the extra stuff that these players are doing, the podcast, the television show appearances, all of the different distractions, how do you keep your team with that fine focus it takes to win? I mean, it's got to be tough.
Yeah, I think these kids have been raised with this. It's a different generation than I know when you played or I played. I mean, it was just it's a different world. So you kind of grow with them with it, and they handle it, and they handle it easy. I mean, it's something to kind of watch and see how they go about their business. They still go out and work their tail off, and you appreciate that. You appreciate the leadership of some of the guys that maybe do it the most. You talk about Chris, Travis, Patrick. They have a lot of opportunities to do things off the field, but they handle it, and I think the other guys see that football's first.
True professionals, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
So 6 sacks in the Super Bowl, not good. You go out and you have put together a new left side. You have Josh, you have Kingsley, and then you developed the free agent. You signed Jalen Moore from the 49ers, who did a really nice job the other day. I think he had, 1 pressure in the first quarter and a cheap sack late in the game or something like that.
Yeah,
but
he does a good job.
Yeah, you got to be excited about that new offensive front. Can you talk on the job that my friend Andy Heck has done with the offensive line for you with the Chiefs?
Yeah, so I've got a ton of respect for Andy. He not only did he play for 14 years, but he played the position. He communicates well with the guys. I know you guys are best buddies and work together for a long time. So, but he develops guys, and that's what you have to do at this league. You get them for about 4 or 5 years, it seems like, and then they move on. So you got to get production out of them quickly before that time comes. And he's passionate about it. So I appreciate him. He does a great job with the run game and protections. He schemes all that stuff up, and he's been well coached, Mike, by you.
I love him. You know that. I'm a big fan. I'm happy to hear you talk on him, and I knew you'd say great things. So Patrick's off to a great start. I mean, only 2 picks. Travis looks like he's got a little bit of pep back in his step. He looks really good, 170-something yards after the catch this year. You're getting Worthy back. Well, Worthy's back, but it looks like he's getting his legs back underneath him. You get Rice back this week. But I think the most exciting thing for you guys is the development of Thornton, who has 7 20-yard catches. Hollywood Brown's back healthy. He's got 17 first down catches. You got to be excited about this wide receiver group moving forward.
Well, they're close, and listen, down this weekend in particular. I mean, we got a nice challenge this weekend with the Raiders, and that's always exciting. So for these guys to develop like that, especially the two you mentioned at the end, Thornton and Hollywood, they don't have a lot of snaps in games other than what they're getting now with Patrick, and so you've got to develop and earn that trust with the quarterback, and it looks like they've got a nice foundation there, and they all get along good, which is good because you only have one ball, and they all root for each other, which is unique too.
Yeah, and it's great. And, both those young kids have 3 touchdowns each. That's pretty nice. That's a good start. That's going to be a great group to watch. I mean, you guys scored 98 points in the last 3 games, and you don't have all your weapons back, so you guys are going to be a force to be reckoned with moving forward and a little bit scary, I think. My last question, I need to know. Friday, besides cheeseburgers, what's on the menu for Junk Food Friday today?
You know what? The guys changed. They didn't want the junk food Friday, and when I first got here, or maybe it was at the end of my time in Philly. So I've changed it up. It's still pretty good, but it's it's nothing like the pure junk that we had there. That was probably over the top a little bit, but the guys we get the wings and the pizza and all that, and we normally do it Thursday night, but today is Junk Food Friday in my world because I go right for the cheeseburgers for sure.
well, don't have too many. Have one for me. So, and listen, thanks for catching up. Thanks for taking the time. Best of luck this weekend, and we'll talk to you down the road, Coach.
All right, appreciate you, Mike. Thanks.
All right, bro. Thanks to Coach Reid for taking some time for us. To check out the full interview, just go to our YouTube page at Silver State Sports.
All right, after the break, Coach Tice is telling us what the Raiders need to do to beat Coach Reid and the Chiefs on Sunday. All right, welcome back to the Coach's Cut with Mike Tice. Mike Davis here with you. So week 6, the Raiders pulled out the win, ending a 4-game skid, defeating the Tennessee Titans 20-10, and that led to the eventual departure of head coach Brian Callahan. Now the Raiders, though, they go on the road to KC for an interdivision battle with head coach Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and the rest of the Chiefs company. So, Coach, tell us, what are the 3 things the Raiders need to do to win this week in KC?
Well, you and I talked about the first one the other day. The first one is they have to contain Patrick Mahomes. Patrick has 17 first downs rushing the football this year. They got to keep him in the pocket, and he's got 4 rushing TDs.
Yeah.
So that's number 1, Mike.
He's really great on the move. We always know that. Now, yes. Number 2.
Number 2, they got to stay on the field on offense. They have to win that clock battle again. They have to win the time of possession, keep Patrick Mahomes and that receiver core we talked about with Coach Reid and Travis Kelce. Got to keep them on the bench.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The running game will help do that. And what about the third?
The third thing is, we talk about it every week, the Chiefs are +4 in the turnover ratio. Patrick only has 2 interceptions. They're tied with Tampa for the least amount of turnovers in the league. So that's going to be hard creating them. But they got to win the turnover battle. Of course, the Raiders are -4, and they're working their way back to that 0.
Okay. All right. That makes a lot of sense. All right. Yeah, you definitely don't want to shoot yourself in the foot when you're playing Patrick Mahomes.
No. But you know what? I thought this week we would get, since we had Coach Reid around, we'd get Coach Reid to come on and talk about the 3 things that the Chiefs have to do to beat the Raiders. Okay. What do you think about that?
Let's see what he has to say about that.
They got a heck of a football team. The defensive front is something special. So they get after it, and led by Max and how he goes about his business. 96, 69. I mean, all these got 51s back. I mean, these are all really good football players, and then they've got a good back end. So I'd say, take care of business. And try to up your game to compete with these guys. And then on the offensive side, they can throw it and they can run it. That rookie running back is a real deal, and we know about Geno, and he's been doing this a long time and does a great job there. And they've got a good offensive line to go with it. So you've got to be solid on your fronts, both sides, and then special teams comes into play. I mean, Tom does a nice job with that group, and so you've got to make sure that you take care of your lanes and stay disciplined as you can on this thing. So that becomes important.
All right, you just heard the game plan from a 3-time Super Bowl champion. What did you think?
What did you hear? What you heard was not very much.
They call that coach speak.
You heard them telling us that the Raiders were in first place, but I don't see that on the tape.
Hey, listen, if I was Andy Reid, I wouldn't say much either in that
right.
question. All right, guys, don't go anywhere because it's odds and ends when we return. All right, welcome back to the Coach's Cut with Mike Tice. It's time for odds and ends. So, Coach, we start this segment every week with the turnover differential, your baby. Give us an update on that.
Well, things are holding true to form, Mike. The teams that won the turnover battle were 9-3 last week. And we talked already about the Bills. Why did they lose 2 of the next 3? And they lost the turnover battle in both of those games. So it's, I hear that the offensive coordinator in the Bills is taking some heat, but at the end of the day, if they don't lose the turnover battle, they probably win both of those games.
Right.
So that's going to hold true. The turnover differential is something that you listen to these coaches talk and they believe in it.
It's the number one thing everybody talks about when they come on the show. What about this? Because I'm always curious about the bye week and how that impacts a coach's way that they're basically dealing with trends and nuggets, little things like that when you're either entering, coming off of a bye week. What are some of the things that you're picking up on around the league when it deals with bye weeks?
Well, we had the coach on that's probably the best coming out of the bye week in the history of football, and that's NFL. That's Andy Reid.
Yeah.
And last week we had 4 teams coming off the bye week, and all 4 teams won. The Falcons, the Bears, the Steelers, and the Packers. The problem is, as we saw Thursday night, the Steelers didn't finish up with another win.
They screwed that one up.
They screwed that one up.
But it was a close one.
But they did win coming out of the bye 2 weeks ago. And it gives you time, the bye week, to look at yourself first and see what you're doing well and say, maybe we should do more of that. And what you're not doing so well, and decide, do we have the time to fix that, or should we just can that and move forward?
As a head coach, when you were looking at your schedule, would you rather have your bye week earlier in the season or later in the season? What's better?
I'd probably have it later. I would like it later, so this way if you have some guys banged up, you get them back get them a little bit of rest. Not the guys that are on IR, but the guys that are banged up, they get a little bit of rest for that final push.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, earlier we were talking about, obviously we saw our first head coach fired in the league earlier this week. Titans head coach Brian Callahan, he was fired. Now Mike McCoy is going to become the interim head coach of that situation. You, back in your day, your first opportunity to become a head coach was being an interim head coach, and you earned the head coaching job from that stint. Is that correct?
I did, and
how,
that was only because I was cheap. I didn't cost a lot of money. So
no, but seriously, so
coach.
Denny Green goes out, and then you're the guy tasked with that. Out of all the other positional coaches, you were the guy they selected. Why do you think they gave you that opportunity, and what did you demonstrate with that opportunity that gave them the go-ahead to ultimately say, hey, you earned the job?
Well, first of all, I'm not being funny. It was because I was cheap. I was inexpensive, and the man was trying to sell the team. So that was the first reason. The second reason is that I was in the building. I had a good reputation as a builder of offensive lines. Had a lot of guys go to the Pro Bowl for us. And they wanted some continuity because not a lot of the things that Coach Green did were bad. I mean, he's a great coach.
Right.
And so I just wanted to tweak things a little bit and not recreate the wheel.
And we've seen, Nate Burleson, your former player that loves you so much, we've seen proof of how players took to you as a human being, and we can see that. Beyond just being a coach, you were a friend to a lot of these guys. When you're an interim head coach and you're going from positional to head, is there animosity from other coaches in the building because they can't selfishly put away the ego, the fact that should have been my opportunity? Is it hard to connect with your coaches when you're the guy from behind the scenes who suddenly is now in the spotlight?
Well, unfortunately, you better have, fortunately, you better have a good sense of that in the room as far as coaches and make some changes. And I did. I made a couple of changes, not a lot. We kept some guys. But you have to make changes and make sure you have the right environment and you have the guys in the building that have your back.
Okay, now let me ask you something specifically about the Titans, because Mike McCoy, I believe he's coached Peyton Manning in Denver. I don't know if he's a quarterback whisperer or guru, but now he has this opportunity to work with the number one pick of the draft and Cam Ward. A guy like Mike McCoy, do you think that's got to help his development? I know Brian Callahan leaves. His father, who was the O-line coach, departs as well. Do you think this means better things down the road for the Titans because Mike McCoy has worked closely with a lot of quarterbacks, Phillip Rivers, Peyton? Can that help Cam Ward?
No, not from what I'm hearing. From what I'm hearing, there's too much dysfunction in that building, and that's not going to be advantageous to winning. It's too hard to win in the National Football League. That's why you don't get mad when you win by 1 point. And then to go in there and not have the players, or take over and not have the players, and then not have a front office that's on the same page, it's going to be tough for Mike.
All right. We'll see what happens there in Tennessee. We're hoping for the best for that franchise and Cam Ward. Guys, that's it for this edition of The Coach's Cut with Mike Tice. For producer James, editor Jess, and our incredible production team, including Ryan, I'm Mike Davis. We'll see you next time.